Thursday, January 15th. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, it's a Thursday. We talk about faking one's death.
Let's do this.
Now, longtime listeners might have expected me or Scott to open with the classic woman, because it's a little cold up here in Beacon.
It is like the coldest day. I think it might have been colder like today and yesterday than like any Rochester day I can remember.
No.
You know, granted, my memory is not, like in Rochester, all the cold days sort of blur together into one.
No,
sort
see,
of
yeah, because
equally
you're
cold.
forgetting. When we lived in Rochester, we were becoming likened unto the gods in terms of the ability. We had like plus 15.
I was thinking more likened unto the abominable snowman.
We had like plus 15 cold resistance. You needed at least a 5th level spell of cold to get us.
I mean, there was that wizard on the quarter mile. He cast Cone of Cold at everyone, but no one noticed. I was the only one who saw him there. Like, does anyone notice this guy? But people were like, it doesn't hurt anybody.
In fact, if you miss the saving throw, it's kind of balmy. But no, I think today warrants the bringing back of a terminology that I haven't really used since I was at RIT, because it only ever really applied at RIT. And once we left Rochester, until today, I had not encountered temperatures worthy of it. But you see, at RIT, like every student when we got there, it's fucking cold. It was real cold.
We had not yet learned about the coldness of space and how warm it is.
I mean, I'd grown up in Michigan. I was used to cold, but what I wasn't used to is walking long distances in said cold.
Yeah, I mean, Connecticut is not a warm place in the winter either, but it was not like Rochester.
But part of it that Rochester, when you're a freshman, all right, you're going to get to class. Even if you take, like, the scary frat tunnels and every tunnel you can get to get as close to the academic side as possible.
Even if you use buses.
You've still got to walk a long way in the cold. Even if you drive. I had to park further from my classes when I drove to campus than, like, I had to drive to get to work.
Yeah, I mean, if
crazy.
I would drive sometimes to the other side of campus, but because I didn't have a fancy permit, I had to park in this faraway lot. And in that faraway lot, I had to walk to the building. And that walk to the building was just as far, almost as far, as the walk, like, across campus, using tunnels.
It was like 2 minutes less far, which is the only reason we drove all the time.
Yeah, right?
But I remember very specifically that when I would walk outside, and when any of us would walk outside in these cold winter mornings, only one syllable could be uttered, and that syllable was fuck.
Yep.
Because you wouldn't expect it. You walk outside, and you start to go, and suddenly you realize how cold it is. That warmth that you built up from being inside in the coat is gone, and all you can do is stop and say fuck.
Even if you got the fancy coat where you tie it down low to keep the air from getting in, and you got the fancy gloves that seal around with the wrist Velcro like I have, and the whole rubber bands around the legs even, the hot air, just as soon as you walk out the door, whoop, it escapes. I don't know where it escapes. It just gets right out.
Now, we used to say, and by we, I mean everyone at RIT, when it was cold out, you'd walk out and you go, it's fucking cold. Fuck this. Fuck. We would say fuck a lot. But it got to the point to where we had our own language where the word fuck meant very specifically cold. If it was cold out, you didn't say, woman, it is cold out there.
That's because we didn't learn that yet.
No, we didn't learn woman until I got to IBM. But you would say, good friend who is a sophomore at RIT, it is fuck outside today.
Why? Not only is it fuck outside today, it is also fucking.
Now, fucking, it was equivalent to snowing.
Yes, like the Eskimos, we developed new words for snow.
Because the Rochester snow was never that nice, like, snowball snow. It was always that, like, it would come down and freeze on things to where you had to spend about 10 minutes chipping your car out.
There are also
morning.
those 2 ice storms.
Oh my God. I was driving back to RIT from IBM for an anime music night when that second ice storm came through.
I mean, the first time there was an ice storm, I'd never seen an ice storm like that before.
I did a 180 on the freeway in that ice at like 60 miles an hour.
I mean, you're going down, you're walking, right? And
that 180 was followed by another 180, so I didn't die.
There are trees, right? And the trees have no leaves because winter, obviously. But every single branch, down to the tiniest branch on every tree, is covered in ice. It's like someone made an ice sculpture of a tree and then put a tree in it, and it matched. There would be literally, like, you would have a branch that was like the tiniest branch, like we're talking like millimeter diameter branch, with like a 2 centimeter thick cylinder of ice just perfectly around it, like a candle with a wick in it, where the ice is the wax and the wick is the tree.
Of course, remember,
and that's every single branch and every single tree.
Remember, I think it was 2 Katsukons ago, driving down to DC over that Delaware Bridge when there was like an 1.5 inches of ice covering every piece of that bridge. It was like falling down in sheets into the 2 side lanes. We had to like hide in the middle lane.
That was pretty scary shit.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
But I think where these words came from specifically, I don't think it was just the fact that the only syllable you could utter when stepping out into this cold was fuck. And the fuck wasn't so much, it wasn't just the surprise. It was also the fact that you were resigned to the fact that you had to walk through it. You couldn't give up. You couldn't say, fuck, it's cold, never mind. It was, fuck, I gotta keep walking. My journey has just begun, and it is nowhere near completion.
So needless to say, it's really cold here in New York.
It is. Yeah, we're talking.
I'd like to move, to a tropical island. That would be nice.
Yeah, but all the jobs are here and all the like anime screenings.
Well,
and
there
stuff.
actually is a job that is not here on a tropical island.
Yeah, you know what? I applied for that along with everyone else in the world.
Yeah.
But it's cold. Just for perspective, for anyone out there, when we say cold in the fuck or woman perspective, we mean below 0 Fahrenheit. Saltwater freezing, people.
Yeah, I took a photo, and my car has a thermometer that tells you the temperature outside the car. I took a little picture of it this morning. It said -11°C. That's cold.
Yeah, but C, who uses C? We're in America.
I use C. In fact, it's like I use C to the point where I have actually a little difficult time. Like, it's weird as the temperatures get higher, right? Like we're talking like, 60, 50, 60, 70. It's like I understand Fahrenheit more. But when you get colder, near the zeros, like the freezing area, I understand C more.
You know what I think part of it is? When you're going up hot, 100 degrees is the point at which it moves from it's hot to it's unbearable.
100 degrees C is you're boiling like a lobster. It's not good.
But I'm talking about Fahrenheit. Like,
I know.
Like the magic number is 100. But in Celsius, the magic number where it starts getting kind of cold is 0. Even though I think it depends on where you grow up. Because, growing up in Michigan, the number we worried about was 0 Fahrenheit. Because when saltwater freezes is when frostbite goes from that distant concern if you go off hiking to, I hope I don't get frostbite on my way to school today. Because saltwater freezes at that temperature, and saltwater is primarily
the ferry to Newburgh isn't running because there's so much ice in the Hudson River. Now, usually the river doesn't get ice because the water is moving, so it doesn't like to freeze, but it's so cold that the ferry can't even bust the ice up.
You know what, though? Because this happened a couple times last year and the year before with that ferry, but Beacon must be coming up in the world because they actually were announcing in Grand Central over the loudspeakers continuously before, like, whenever there was a train going up north at all, saying the Beacon Newburgh ferry is currently down due to ice conditions. Please
use the bus.
Go to whatever and use the bus.
Well, you just take the train as usual, but instead of getting on the ferry, you take a bus and they drive over the bridge. The bridge is just fine.
Hey, it's better than when I used to live in Pokeway. They were doing all that track work back in the day. So I would take the train to Southeast, get off, get on a school bus, and the school bus would then stop at all the different stations and basically go up the rest of the route.
That's the worst thing I ever heard.
The thing is, it was always me and a bunch of like really hoity-toity, like older upper middle class liberals, because that's who lives in that area.
In a school, I mean, the last time
so it would be me, right? I was off like visiting Emily or seeing like a movie or a show in the city. And all these like very well-dressed older couples who are in the city for a day of shopping.
So I was on a school bus recently. I went to earlier in the year. I went to Giants the Giants 49ers game, right?
Yeah, we took one of these before when me and Emily went to that baseball game too.
Yeah. But I mean, the all the stadiums in the New York area are like they're building new ones. There's like a new stadium in the Meadowlands, new Mets Stadium, new Yankee Stadium, right?
The new Yankee Stadium has its own train station on Metro North.
So they build these stadiums in the parking lots of the old stadiums, and then they take the old stadiums down and make a new parking lot. That's how this works, right? But, they need to play in the old stadium while the new one's being built. Result, less parking during that time. So, all the sporting events I've gone to in the past year or two, right? Unless you're the lucky guy who has a parking permit, you got to park way far away and take a little shuttle bus, right? Which sucks.
Well, to use the vernacular, it's rare that I'm in a school bus, but I'm sure you've had the similar experience where you get into a school bus and suddenly all your brain can think is, shit is small.
Exactly. I mean, like, you look at the outside of a school bus, shit is big, right? And you remember when you were a kid on the school bus, there was, pretty roomy. I got in a school bus with, like, all these Giants fans, and, like what was a 3-seater when I was a kid is like a 1-seater for, like, me, a normal-sized person. And legroom, I mean, I guess they assume people don't have legs. It's a bus for paraplegics. I don't know, but
I just
school
remember
buses,
as a kid,
and then I sat on the
seat.
hump. I sat on the hump. That was a bad move.
Why did you sit on the hump?
I didn't realize because I was still stunned at how close and small the seats were.
Yeah, like I remember as a kid, the back of the bus was so far away from the front. It was like its own world. Like you'd be hanging out in the back of the bus like it was this private little apartment in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
I sit in the back of a school bus now, and it's like I feel like I can reach out and grab the bus driver.
Maybe not that close, but I guess if it's the short bus.
Mostly, I feel exposed because I think when you're little, like remember when you're a kid in the school bus, you're sitting there, and you're shorter than the seat in front of you.
Yeah, you're hiding.
You feel like you're invincible. No one can see what you're.
I made a lot of mischief in the school bus that way.
No one can see what you're writing on the seat. Or the fact that you're eating and drinking even though you're not supposed to be, or that you're playing punch for punch.
Or Mercy.
Ah, Mercy. See, I never played Mercy because I knew better, and I had more than one friend get broken fingers.
Fingers? You're supposed to break wrists. You're doing it wrong. Broken wrist is how you know you're playing properly. If it's broken fingers, someone is just not playing it correctly.
So, there was some other interesting news today. It's not really breaking news anymore, but it has a personal connection to you, I think.
Oh, yeah. Well, that also involves the cold.
Yeah, the cold.
Basically, it was all over the crazy news, like OMG, plane crashes in river, right? Which is right where we work. And apparently on that, my company was recently bought by another company that is, well, relatively recently, as in before. Well, the economy was bad, but we didn't know it yet when this happened. And the CEO of that company, right, was on that plane. That's it.
Didn't he, call you from the plane, hey, guys?
No, he didn't call us. He called, I guess, his person or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And then there was, a company email.
He's a CEO, so I guess he has a person.
Because basically it was it's like, hey, he was in our office yesterday, and then it's like, plane from New York to Charlotte. And it was like, wasn't he flying out today? How many planes to Charlotte could there be in one day? And that was that. I don't know, I've only talked to the guy once, and that was to say, "Hey, fucker, couldn't you wait until after Thanksgiving to lay people off?"
Did you say the word fucker?
No.
No.
That's pretty much the only thing I've said to this guy besides, "Hey, what's up?" So, But yeah, that's it. It's kind of weird though. It's like usually you see a plane crash, you don't know anyone, then suddenly there's a plane crash and you know someone. It's like, ooh, weird. But no one died.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing is they floated the plane down to Jersey.
Well, I mean, basically takes off, right? And the plane's not doing so well. So you sort of just give it as much go as it's got left in it and then figure out a way to, take as much energy out of it as you can on the way down, and then land somewhere where you're not going to crash and explode. And then, use all the life rafts and shit. And, usually a lot of that stuff on the plane, is like, hey, is this shit gonna work? Well, I guess they told the people in the emergency exit rows and they did what they were supposed to do. So I guess the shit does work.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, you saw there were photos, everyone standing on the wing, plane floated for a while. You know what I think is the funniest part is on the radio they were like, the plane is now tied up in Battery Park. So I guess it's like a plane just like tied up on the shore. Which is, I think that'd be a funny thing to go see. I'm sure there'll be a picture of it.
Yeah, we should turn it into a little, I don't know, sculpture or something.
Make a plushie.
Yeah.
Plushie, the Hudson River crash. Yeah. So in sort of an unavoidable thing that, to not talk about, Steve Jobs' health. How could we not discuss this, right? So Steve Jobs is a pretty important person, even if, Apple is doing some things that are not so cool, like they still have DRM on their movies, and the iPhone is really locked down, and Macs are overpriced, and they only have one mouse button, et cetera, right? Steve Jobs is pretty important. I mean, without Steve Jobs, probably wouldn't have computers so much. Heck, we might not even have GUIs. The GUI might have been invented, but it would not have been like, this thing that everyone had on their computers everywhere, Probably would have kept with the DOS. The Mac wouldn't have pushed on Windows to come out, et cetera. We'd be in a different place. So it's sort of significant that he's illin and could be dying. We don't know.
Well, it raises a lot of, Thursdays are usually the fun days. I don't want to get into all this. I was kind of saving this for Monday.
No, because it's not really technology.
Well, no, talking about more, there are other ramifications, like very cold, calculated ramifications that, like investors, because Steve Jobs is such a...
Oh, that's not what I want to talk about.
I know, but because he is such a, like, demigod for Apple, like he is like this face, this avatar of the company, that his personal life and his health and who he is and what he does have an undue effect on the health of the company itself, because so much of the company, either really internally or superficially, obviously we can't know, relies on him and things that he doesn't do directly in the course of his work.
Yep. But anyway, the thing I want to draw attention to is not so much the Apple end of things. It is that if you don't know the story, right, and I think in 2003 or 4, Steve, you can find out all this info online. He had pancreatic cancer, right, which is not lucky. But he was lucky to have, this is sort of weird, he was lucky, I guess, to have a rare type of pancreatic cancer. I guess he would have been luckier to have none. But the thing is, the most common kind of pancreatic cancer is pretty much you're going to die and it's not looking too good. This rare kind of pancreatic cancer that he had was actually survivable if you just go to the doctor and get a little surgery. It's not pleasant, but you got good chances, much better chances than if you have regular, more common pancreatic cancer. So he found out he had this. But because, despite all those things I just said about him, he's sort of a hippie, vegan kind of guy, So he was like, being his hippie ways, was like, you know what? I'm not going to do this real medicine surgery. I'm just going to go on a diet.
Now,
and that'll cure my cancer.
My question to you is, how verified is this? Do you have
It's Ars Technica reports.
All right.
So
I'm just
there's multiple other places that report this as well.
I know. I'm just doing my due diligence to avoid a libel.
Yeah, there's no libel. It's plenty of places are reporting this. I didn't make it up.
Because
right?
I do also see that he required no chemotherapy or radiation therapy of any kind, because they could use
he just needed a surgery.
Yes, the Whipple procedure, which I'm reading about now and is actually kind of interesting.
It is very interesting. All he needed was his surgery, but he refused to get it.
You know what? It involves the duodenum, which came up in conversation like 3 times with me yesterday.
Duodenum's a good word. It's funny. Duodenum.
Seattle.
Yep. All right. So he doesn't want to get this surgery, and instead goes on a diet thinking that'll cure it, right? And of course, it doesn't. So like 6 months or so later, of course, it gets a lot worse, and he's forced to have the surgery, right? After he has the surgery, he's better. Oh my God, real medicine works. It's a miracle, right? Actually, it's not anything close to a miracle. It's perfectly ordinary, real medicine working. So now, of course, he is illin again, and his illin appears to be more serious than the, I guess, hormone imbalance that he said it was like a week ago or so. And, he hasn't given enough details for anyone to really know. But, many doctors are taking the evidence that, the information we do have and sort of, saying what is common, what is likely, et cetera, what is probably wrong with him, because we know the symptoms. He's getting real thin. We know some of his medical history, had pancreatic cancer, waited too long to get the surgery, right? So based on that, a lot of doctors, have said it's probable that because he waited to get the surgery and tried the phony, well, it's not so much phony medicine, but, it is not real medicine, that waiting could have, contributed to his current health woes. And perhaps if he would have had the surgery right away, he probably would have been a lot better off right now than he is right now.
All I really have to say to that is that it's really, really sad.
It is pretty sad. And the thing is, right, is that, we look at famous people who have tried to do phony medicine and either suffered needlessly or died too early because of it. Like Martin Luther King's wife, right? She could have, gotten better, but instead of going to get treatment at the hospital, she went to a alternative clinic in Mexico and then died. Andy Kaufman went to get psychic surgery in the Philippines, died, right? And those are just famous people that I happen to know about doing this shit, right? There are millions and probably, thousands, maybe millions of non-famous people who have turned to fake medicine or have at least turned away from real medicine and needlessly suffered and or died because of it, when real medicine could have just helped them out just fine. So learn from Steve Jobs. Do not be like him. If there is something wrong with you, right, go get real medicine. I don't care if insurance sucks. I don't care if, the health care the pharmaceutical companies are evil.
There is
the
caveat of, if you can't afford real medicine or don't have access to it, what do? You
go to the emergency room. In the U.S., you go to the emergency room where they have to treat you.
Oh, yeah.
All right, but whatever do not go do the fake medicine.
Don't do what Donnie don't does.
Right? All those other problems, insurance companies suck, pharmaceutical companies are evil, whether those are true or not, right? Those things are not as important as you not dying. So for now, you have to deal with that bullshit. You can worry about that later. If there is something wrong with you or something wrong with someone you care about or anyone you know, make sure real medicine only. No fake medicine. If you actually care about it. I guess if you want someone to die and they're sick, tell them to go try fake medicine. That's a good idea. But, well, I guess if you're evil.
But anyway, things of the day on a somewhat lighter note. Now, it's a lighter note in that it's not sad, but at the same time, it's a serious note because I worry as to how many people will do well on this test.
Oh.
I found this little quiz out there on the internet, and it's a very simple, very short quiz. And all it does is test your ability to think logically. And it is designed in such a way that certain questions, particularly question 12, for anyone who's paying attention, they will lead you in a certain direction in order to point out the differences between, say, inductive or deductive logic and all those sorts of things. I just thought this was neat. I'll point out I got 100%.
I got 93%, but the last question I was rules lawyery on it because I was rules lawyery on the rest of it. But being rules lawyery on the final question, sort of backfired. But
yes,
actually,
I'll give it to him.
The answer sheet admits that the final question is up for philosophical debate. And actually, if there was a philosophical debate, I would have debated on the side of my answer, which they said was incorrect. So, whatever. I get the rest of them right. That's what really counts.
Yes, but
so if you get the last one wrong, it's okay. If you get less than 93%, that's not okay. You suck.
But part of the thing to keep in mind here is that this kind of reveals the difference between, look in law, you have the preponderance of evidence kind of argument, and then you have the beyond a reasonable doubt argument, but then you have the beyond a shadow of a doubt argument.
See, the thing is that because it's sort of like what this is like when you're doing math problems, right? There's always the word problems. It's basically the same as all the other problems, only instead of saying what's 24 divided by 6, right? They say, I have 24 apples and 6 friends. We want to share the apples evenly. How many apples do I give to each friend, right? And it's the same exact answer, but you have to think about it differently. So
yes, clearly you give everyone one and you throw the rest away.
That's right. So what this test does is actually it's a discrete mathematics quiz. That's what they're really asking you. You know, you've got transitive relationships and all that business going on, right?
Well, actually, the way in layman's terms, really simply, when you think about logic, there are different. There is basically practical logic and philosophical logic, kind of like with real life, free will, solipsism, all that stuff. I mean, philosophically and physically, I can't prove that I have consciousness or any of those things, and I'm forced to admit that solipsistically, the only thing I can prove that exists is myself. But practically, Scott's sitting right there, and I got a computer in front of me. So my practical logic has to get past the philosophical logic in that you can use fuzzy logic to live your real life because things are not black and white in the real world because you don't have all the information. But if you use pure philosophical logic and your precepts are correct, like if A is true and B is true, then C is true, logic is used, and you know for sure that A and B are true, then you know 100% sure that C is true.
Yeah, like I said, it's discrete mathematics, A and B, therefore C,
It also
B
reveals
and C, therefore A.
the fundamental paradox of existence that the more sure you are about something, or the more close to 100% veracity a statement is, the less applicable or globally useful such statement is. So kind of the more right you are on a philosophical level, the less applicability you have. And if you're 100% right, you have zero applicability. It's interesting stuff. And if you're not well-versed in the true ideas of philosophical and mathematical logic, this test, if you're intelligent, you will be able to learn almost all of it simply by taking and passing or failing this test.
Yeah, if you're a computer scientist, you can't pass this. You got problems. Find a new job.
You have a thing of the day?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
All right, so this article, it's mostly an editorial, and it's not full of a lot of evidence really, and it's sort of written in a silly fashion. So don't take it to be like, this is true for reals. There's a scientific study, OMG, right? Even though I think it does reference a study, as a little citation for it. But basically what this guy is saying is he's suggesting in a somewhat humorous manner that peanut allergies are an invention of yuppies. And while I don't know if it's 100% true, and I'm very dubious and skeptical of the actual, veracity of this suggestion, it is.
You only use the word veracity because I just used it a bunch of times a little while ago and it got stuck in your head.
I don't know. I use that word.
I don't know. Just it seems I feel
what
like
other word am I supposed to use?
Truthiness.
No. All right. But basically, what he's suggesting here, right, is that basically there are only 4% of kids with food allergies, yet 25% of parents believe their kids have food allergies. There's a mismatch here, right?
It's kind of like the old mean world syndrome where, there X percentage of people are subject to violent crimes, but if you ask people themselves their perception of how much violent crime is out there, every individual person perceives a lot more than there really is.
Mm-hmm.
Or kind of like how every person if you quiz people, far more than 50% of drivers think that they are an average or better driver.
Yeah, right? So, he's talking about things like how, these crazy overprotective yuppie parents, will think their kids have food allergies and their kids will be like, no, get the peanut butter away from me. But they don't really have a food allergy, And maybe, in some cases, I mean, there's evidence of this in other things where, maybe you're not actually allergic to something, but if you have this like extreme psychological aversion to something, then it can sort of cause a reaction. Like if I sort of, really instill in you the fact that, I keep telling you, stay the fuck away from peanut butter. Oh my God, you'll die. And you actually believe this. And then peanut butter comes along, even if you don't have an actual allergy, just because you're going to freak out, you're going to have these other, whenever you see or smell peanut butter, the freaking out in your mind results in these other problems, the stress.
Now, this is very true. I've seen a lot of studies, and this has been pretty verified, that if someone believes they have sensitivity to something, they can generate psychosomatic responses that will actually cause hives to appear and physical symptoms of a minor nature to appear.
Yeah, you can actually this happens a lot. This is where you get those people who say, like, that cell phone towers, give them headaches and
Or
shit.
in like a school where like a girl smells something and then like she feels sick and then like all the other kids in the class start feeling sick too. It's like this mass hysteria thing.
Yeah, it's like, they've done like studies. Basically, you find someone who says that they're sensitive to electromagnetic waves, and basically whenever this person says that whenever they're near a cell tower, they start to get headaches and it sucks, right? So what do? You put the person in a room, right? And you go around, and behind the wall where they can't see, you have an antenna, right? And basically you turn it on and off, but they don't know whether it's on or off. And then you ask them, like, is it on or off right now? And basically, if they decide that it's on, they will actually have headaches, and they will tell you they have headaches, and they'll tell you they think it's on. And if they think it's off, they won't have headaches, and they'll tell you they think it's off. Meanwhile, it doesn't actually matter whether it's on or off. It only matters whether they think it's on or off, which shows that the electromagnetic waves from the radio are not actually the cause of their headaches, but just their own psychology is the cause of the headaches.
And it
is possible that a large amount of these, reports of allergies and increase. I mean, there's definitely been. He says here that there has been a what percent? 18% increase in childhood food allergies between 97 and 2007. That definitely seems. I mean, it's possible that could be, a genetic thing. Just that the gene has emerged due to the way things have gone.
There's also the option that it might be environmental. I mean,
it could be endemic,
because there is
very possible.
There is other evidence pointing to allergies in general being at a higher rate of occurrence when cleanliness is above a certain standard or too much antibacterial soaps and things are used. But the thing is, these are all very loose correlations right now. There's no proven causation.
All of these are possible explanations. But mass hysteria is just as plausible an explanation as the others.
Cats and dogs living together.
Yes. And it's, this little article is funny and interesting. Especially, if you're like one of those, if you're trying to send your kid to school with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and they won't let you and you're pissed off. You'll like this article.
Well, the real answer is peanut butter with a baseball bat.
Peanut butter jelly?
Peanut butter jelly?
Peanut butter jelly with a baseball bat?
That's one thing. We were ahead of the curve. We were all about that song.
When I was about that song, I first heard it in summer camp. I guess I was a counselor, and it was between my first and second years at RIT. So 2001, I had peanut butter jelly with a baseball bat.
Yep.
That was way ahead. That was before the Dancing Banana. At that point, it was just a song by the Buckwheat Boys and nothing more. Right? Not many people can come close to that, except the other people at the summer camp.
So what I have learned from the news recently is that, one, if you are going to fake your own death, you should at least make sure there's enough fuel in your plane so that it will actually crash over the ocean without your body in it instead of nearby without your body in it with the door open.
Well, I guess you got closing the door is key, first of all.
Two, if you're gonna fake your own death, liquidate your assets before you disappear. Not after.
Yeah, it's also a very good idea. The Swiss banks exist for a reason. So do the, tiny islands in the Caribbean.
3, if you jumped out of your plane and landed in a swamp and needed help and go find the police, have a better story than I was in a canoeing accident. And don't give them your real driver's license. Say you lost it in the canoeing accident.
Did the guy really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That just that tells me, like, I didn't realize that he was that stupid, this guy.
Of
that
course
tells me that he
what's his name?
that he wasn't really trying that hard, that he really didn't want to, he wasn't committed. He didn't really want it to go all the way.
Some people tried to do too much with it. You did not try.
Yeah, I don't think he really wanted it that badly enough.
Either that or
he couldn't have been that stupid.
It might have been a cockamamie plan. Like maybe he's on the plane and he's like, "Oh crap, I just suddenly realized how screwed I am. Time to fake my own death. Let's do this. Leroy!"
Yeah, it could have been a spontaneous thing, in which case there's no way it's going to succeed.
I don't know. It seems like running away in that capacity, like faking your own death or disappearing or even being a willful bum. If you're smart, would be really easy and could probably be very cool
Well,
if you did it right.
faking your own death is significantly more difficult than just running away. Running
think
away is kind of easy,
I think faking your own
at
death
least
is
in a
pretty
free
easy.
country. Faking your death can be difficult.
Yeah, it's not like South Park where you just need to have a pig in Butter's clothing.
Yeah. I mean, to fake your death, right, you need to do one of two things, basically, at least in a country like the U.S., right? One, you either need to fake a corpse. That's really hard. I mean, something that like what's the guy at the morgue's name? The mortician
Or the
something,
coroner.
Yeah, something that a coroner or a mortician is going to be fooled by. Good luck. I mean, maybe you could get an actual corpse, but even then, they're going to DNA and they're going to dental record. And what are you going to do about that? It is fucking hard. It would cost you the amount of money it would cost to fake the corpse and fool even like the lazy coroner. Really hard. I mean, maybe you could bribe the coroner. That might do it. But even then, that is not a guaranteed thing. The fewer people you have to trust, the better, right? So the other way to do it is to die in some way where there is no corpse. For example, your plane crashed. A lot of times planes crash and there's no corpse. You get eaten by sharks in the ocean. Or piranhas. There's nothing left after the piranhas come, right?
Well, what about in that movie where all you have to do is have a dentist friend, find a hobo corpse somewhere, get him to I'm going to use that as a verb, or dentify the teeth to where upon an examination, especially they'll think it's you. Like they already think it's you because they found your wallet. And you burn the body or something, and they find the skull and the teeth, and they do their quick x-ray and their test, and it matches up with your dental records. They say, well,
as long as there's no suspicion of like murder and it's not part of like a big case, they're not going to dedicate resources to investigate further. So that probably would work. But if they do investigate further, like they think there might be some foul play and it gets all on the news and they got to bring in the real forensic experts and not just like the local cop schmucks, then they're going to look and say, hey, these teeth were doctored.
See,
what the fuck?
This is one of the problems.
With their CSI bullshits.
The more reason you have to fake your death, the harder it becomes because more people are looking for you. If I fake my death, people would go, well, Rim had a good run. I mean, it'd be really easy, too. All I do is say I'm going to Breakneck Ridge hiking or something, and then I would leave town. I would just, drive. I'd, ditch my car. I'd, walk real far away, and then I'd start hitchhiking. And once I got far enough away, I'd just, lay down outside a hospital at night and fall asleep, wait till someone finds me, and claim amnesia. Eventually, they'd assume I was dead in the wilderness.
You have to be really good at acting, though, because they'll check for that brain damage. The neurologists will come, and you might get caught when they notice that.
I don't think I would.
You have to be really good with the acting to claim amnesia.
Or just act like you're stupid.
I guess that works. You got to be really good at acting. So the other ways you got to die where all right, I already said that.
Where no one expects to find a body.
You got to drop in a vat of acid, right? Now the thing is, drop in a vat of acid.
One,
okay.
Why was that vat of acid there? Two, what were you doing hanging out on top of it?
Think about this though. It's not just that. It's how do you create the impression that you have fallen in the vat of acid, yet you did not actually fall in the vat of acid because then you didn't fake your death. You committed suicide. You have to take a fake you, toss it in the acid, and then somehow escape. Right? It's a little harder than, jumping in the vat of acid is easy. Now try surviving that, but having people believe you didn't. That's hard.
Maybe one way to go is just cut yourself and get a bunch of blood, in your bedroom or something. And you're here it is. Make it look like you were murdered and then just disappear. Drive your car out somewhere, cut yourself, cover your car in your own blood, and maybe someone else's blood too, if you've got someone else's blood handy. Of course, if you do, you're probably a bad person, and the police should probably find you.
Because you're trying to just escape. You're not trying to be bad. It's just you're trying to...
No, I'm saying, what if you have, you work in a hospital? All right, you've got access to, blood.
All right.
Put some other blood there, too, just to make it weird and suspicious. And then,
That's not good. If it's weird and suspicious, there'll be a lot more investigating.
But then just push the car off a cliff.
Then they'll go and pick the car off the bottom of the cliff, and there's no bodies in it. There's just a lot of blood.
Yeah.
Where the bodies go.
Yeah, but they're going to look for bodies. They're not going to look for you alive and well in Albuquerque working as a busker.
Yeah, but it's going to be one of those things where they do the manhunt on the news and they're looking with the dogs.
That doesn't mean anything.
And Scott.
Are you a pretty young white woman?
You are.
Well, pretty and young, yes.
Well,
Woman, most
white,
definitely.
mostly the white woman. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. See, but it's kind of like the same thing with being a bum. I mean, or a lot of situations. Like if I personally became homeless or became a bum or needed to fake my own death, I feel like I could get away with it. But and Scott too, and I think a lot of smart people could. Kind of like how.
Well, running. See, the thing is, I don't know if I could fake my own death because it's actually kind of hard. But I mean, I guess I could have
But Scott,
really tried.
Yeah, think if you were
but
determined,
running away.
if you spent like a month planning it, as opposed to, I don't know, 10 minutes on a radio show off the cuff.
Running away is actually really easy because, right? I am over the age of 18 years old, right? I'm just, if I just get up and leave and you just don't see me, I don't come back tomorrow. You can't really file a missing persons report or anything. I'm allowed to go.
I can file a missing persons report, but the police won't act on it for X days or X weeks or whatever.
Well, they're not gonna really. I'm just allowed to go wherever I want. As long as my taxes end up getting paid and stuff like that, no one's gonna come looking for me. And as long as I can get a new identity.
But that's the
somewhere.
tricky part in the U.S. They're making that more and more difficult.
They are
that's
making it more and more difficult.
Gotta have the amnesia. You show up in a hospital and you just you don't remember who you are or anything, and eventually hope that they give you something.
I think a better idea is just go to a small town and live a small town life. Maybe marry someone in the small town where.
How are you gonna get the marriage license?
What do you mean?
You don't have any ID.
It's a small town. They don't freaking.
Yes, they do. They'll check.
You're just a stranger comes to town.
Things are getting increasingly interlinkedly databasified. You like that term, interlinkedly databasified?
Yeah. That is, whether you fake your own death or try to run away, right? If you do try,
if you really want to do it, go to Mexico.
Yeah, if you do try to create a new identity in a civilized, developed, fancy, high-tech society, it is very difficult because, okay, so you either A, get real papers, or B, forge some papers, right? Well, if you forge some papers, that's harder and harder to do. But if they're forged papers, remember, someone eventually is going to take those papers and then look them up in a database. Like maybe a cop will pull you over and take your fake driver's license. Even if the driver's license is really, you made it at the DMV with a corrupt DMV person. Okay. So you can get into bars and drink easily, right? But when a cop takes it and types in your driver's license number into his computer and it says not valid, you are fucked. So you got to hack the DMV database to get that info in there. That is really hard. That is bordering on the impossible.
Well, the thing is, it's really hard and it's also really easy because people like us have technological skills and contacts. I don't think it would be that hard for me.
Well,
or you even. Here's where it gets interesting.
The problem is that when you can pull that off, but it requires either A, you to be in a position, say you work at the DMV or something like that, or the Social Security office, or B, you're trusting someone who does. And remember, even if you can have someone you can trust, it's probably going to work, but a loose lip will sink the ship.
Well, one option is the age-old tradition of hacking by leaving USB keys with auto-inject Trojans just on the street outside of the DMV. So you got to be clever.
If you can pull off a move like that, then the winner is you. But remember, DMV computers not likely to be on the internet.
The point I really want to make is that a lot of these things, and this applies broadly, crime, running away, faking your death, being a terrorist, all those things are trivial in many ways for people who are smart. But the reason we don't see this happening is because if you're smart, you can do something more worthwhile with your life, and smart people do.
That's the same thing we always talk about with terrorism, right? It's look at the real the terrorists, the people who actively hate the U.S., don't mind killing people, in fact, want to kill people, right? As much as there's a lot of fear-mongering, and it's the problem of terrorism is very inflated in the media and sensationalized, those people do exist. They're out there, right? They would really like it if bombs exploded in New York City and every other major city and such. There are people who would like that.
Luckily, he died.
Luckily, they are all stupid. Very, very stupid and not smart.
But it's the same thing. Look at our homeless people are a good example. A lot of studies show that many, many people who become homeless who don't have mental problems and are otherwise okay but had a run of bad luck will become non-homeless within a relatively short span of time.
Mm-hmm.
And now, obviously, there are exceptions to this, and homelessness is a huge problem in the U.S., but a lot of the people you see who are homeless, I would...
Especially, the thing is, the homeless people that you see are the street wandering type, right?
Well, I was about to say, there are two kinds.
The begging type.
There are the willful homeless who refuse to, like, they know about the shelters, they know about the help, and they refuse to do it because they prefer to be homeless.
Or they're crazy.
And there are the people who have mental problems that really should be in institutions getting help, but because of the way the U.S. systems work, there's nowhere for these people to go. And it's really this freedom conundrum where, think about it, you have the freedom to do whatever you want. These people, they're not harming themselves to the point of, like, physically stabbing themselves or, like, doing the things that would get them arrested and sent to
They
a
just
prison
walk
insane
around
asylum.
not showering, collecting nasty shit, doing little dances, and pooping occasionally.
Now, here's the problem. What's the line between someone who just doesn't want to make better of themselves versus someone who has a mental problem and they can't and they need help? Because in one case, you have to forcibly intervene in their lives to help them. But in another case, is that intervention justified if the person is a rational thinking adult who has chosen this lifestyle?
Yep.
And you either are going to infringe on someone's freedom or let someone who really does need help not get help.
Yep.
And I don't know what to do about that. But if someone like me or one of us or a lot of you out there were homeless suddenly, like your house blew up and you got fired from your job and someone stole all your money and the government wouldn't help you, and you
had no insurance.
You could probably figure something out. Like,
I mean, at the worst, right? You can get a job at the McDonald's, live with a friend, live with your parents, find just somewhere to crash.
or even if you're completely alone in the world, especially at our age and your age, like, what would I do right now if I had no friends in the world?
Go to Europe?
I suddenly lost everything I owned. I had no assets whatsoever.
Go to Europe?
No, go to a college campus, hang out, make friends with people, especially stoners and drunk frat guys. They will totally hook you up and give you places to stay as long as you're cool. And then you can get yourself on your feet that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that I've seen people do that before.
Especially like if you find a college campus, find some college kids living around there, right? And you go to work at, say, like Home Depot all day while they're in college doing their college thing, and you're hanging with them.
You have more money than they do.
You are bringing in so much money, and if you pay a significant portion of the rent, they're totally helping you out, and they got mad monies.
They got weed. They got weed.
Yeah, it's like you can really, and working at Home Depot ain't so bad. It's better than nothing.
Yep.
Right? So,
Well, how many people did I convince to feed me when I had no money and no food in college? I think I could seduce my way across the country getting people to feed me if I needed to. I don't know. I tell stories. I do Geek Nights live for people. I just hang out and be cool and get people to give me stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I should do that. That might be a more fun life. I should give up the glamour of the stock market and all the money and all this stuff and just wander around being one of those traveling troubadours.
No, not a bad idea.
No? Why not?
No.
Why not?
No, it's not good.
See, the only problem with those plans is that the seduce your way across the country or hang out with the college kids thing really tapers off as age increases.
Yeah.
When you're 45 and you're hanging out at the frat house, that is when people start looking at you as a borderline pedophile.
Borderline?
Well, they're college people, so they're above the age anyway. It's creepy.
Well, I mean, it's not any more creepy than, like, Hugh Hefner, right?
Yeah, but society doesn't vindicate, but society rationalizes him because he has money.
Yeah, but there's a lot of situations of, young girls with really old guys.
But you don't have anything to bring to the equation. You're a bum.
Hey, there are bums that get, like, mad booty. It happens. Usually, though, it's like, they're not bums, but like hobos. Like, there was a hobo I heard about who ran a pirate radio station and that in like a little shack.
Well, there is a big distinction between hobo, bum, and all those different...
But he had mad ladies, like hot college ladies, because his radio station was apparently really hip and cool.
Yeah?
And they'd come out to his shack, and it was part Radio Shack, part Love Shack.
See, at this point, I'd say, hey, well, what would we do right now if we had to come up with one of those scenarios? But they're so specific. Like, what would I do if X happened? I have like 1,000 options.
Well, the thing is,
and-
pretty much what it boils down to is I'm smart. I have skills. I would be okay. Unless it was, unless it was a situation that was sort of unrecoverable. Like, hey, a nuke dropped real close to me and I have nasty radiation.
Or, all right, I'm locked in an airtight stone room, naked with no tools,
or,
and the
oh
walls are
shit, it's
collapsing.
Mad Max, and I'm not on top. Someone else is on, I'm not Kenshiro. I'm some guy who's like, asking Kenshiro to punch a hole in the ground to get water.
You're one of those farmers. You know what? It's not good to be a farmer in the Mad Max world.
No. It is very good to know Hokuto no Ken. Too bad I do not know it.
All right, this show is rapidly petering out. I think we're done.
All right, sure.
This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geek Nights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Odeo. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.